Up next for you at 6, a young woman may receive a most incredible gift, and she doesn't even know who to thank.
Holiday time is a time to give and to share, but what if the best gift doesn't come from a store? What if you could give the gift of life?
As Maria Antonia shows us, that's the kind of generosity a local woman and thousands more desperately wish for, and it can't be bought.
This is John and Stephanie Youngashek's first Christmas together as husband and wife.
Oh, I see one for John over in the corner.
A time they treasure in between the tears.
It's a lot harder some days than other, but my family has been the most supportive.
Stephanie has leukemia. The Johnson County woman found out just weeks after their picture-perfect wedding in May, turning the happiest time of her life into
the worst time of my life. Definitely, yeah.
Since then, the 27-year-old has learned all about the importance of donor drives for the bone marrow registry and the work of people like Diane Lux of the Heart of America Registry.
We have about 2,000 people a day that are searching for a donor through the National Marrow Donor Program.
Without it, I will die, eventually. And it's just a matter of time as to how long it takes. With it, at least I've got a chance.
But her best chance, her brother, is not a match.
You have about a 1 in 4 chance of matching a brother or sister. Once you get out of that immediate family, your average chance of finding an unrelated donor about 1 in 20,000.
And now it looks like Stephanie has that one chance.
There is someone out there who's a perfect match.
An unidentified potential donor, the marrow she needs now within her reach.
And I would love to. I would love to meet the person who could save my life.
If some tests work out, then after the holidays, Stephanie may get her transplant.
How could you ever thank somebody for that? I owe them everything. Absolutely everything.
Everything she lives for. Maria Antonia, KMBC 9 News.
And if you want to help people like Stephanie, here is the number for the local registry, 333-0305. That line is answered Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30.
Would you do it? Would you give of yourself to save the life of someone you don't even know?
It's that kind of generosity that may save an area woman's life.
And tonight in her special report, The Greatest Gift, Maria Antonia shows you how you can help.
Chris Kelly, it's a sad situation, and we don't always think about it until someone we know becomes one of the 30,000 people diagnosed with leukemia each year. For about half, their only chance is a bone marrow transplant.
This is more than just a long list. They're more than just a bunch of names. They're people longing to live. A Kansas City teacher's aide, a pharmacy technician in Kansas City, Kansas, a newlywed in Overland Park.
Oh, it was the best day of my life.
But Stephanie and John Youngashek didn't have to look far into the future for news that would shatter their happiness. 3 weeks after their wedding, a doctor told Stephanie she has leukemia.
Go from the biggest high to the biggest low in a matter of about 1 hour.
Not to mention straight to treatment, to chemotherapy at first, then to search for a donor. What Stephanie needs is a bone marrow transplant.
Without it, I will die, eventually.
Stephanie has a brother, and statistics show there's a 1 in 4 chance he's a match, but in this case, his marrow is not a match. The real test is in finding an unrelated donor, perhaps through a drive like this one right here in Kansas City, where all hope often turns to the generosity of total strangers. They're taking a simple blood test required to become a potential donor.
You're really looking for a kind of a needle in a haystack.
As the folks at the Heart of America Bone Marrow Registry know, even though some 2 million people have signed on, it's very difficult to find a match. But one did turn up for Stephanie.
How could you ever thank somebody for that? I owe them everything. Absolutely everything.
Days before her transplant, Stephanie puts her thoughts on paper.
I can't begin to tell you how grateful I am that you exist and that you've been so willing to sacrifice so much to help me.
A letter expressing her feelings to a donor she may never meet.
I don't know how to begin to thank you for what you've done for me. You've given me a second chance to live my life, and I believe that is a miracle and the most incredible gift anyone could give.
On our News at 10, we follow Stephanie to Omaha for her transplant. Now, she's familiar with these figures we're going to show you, percentages that show just how hard it is, especially for minorities, to find a donor. Now, do you remember the other 2 local women at the start of our report? The teacher's aide and the pharmacy technician, they are still waiting for a match. If you want to help by joining the registry, here's a local number to call, 816-333-0305. And there is a fee, but they will help you with that if you can't deal with it.
Right, and as you said, Stephanie does not know who her donor is.
No, she does not. Now, they're kept anonymous, at least for a year, and it's because it's really for everyone's protection, if you want to know. It is such an emotional process, and it is a process we'll follow on our news at 10.
I look forward to that. Thank you, Maria.
How would you thank someone who saved your life? What if it was a total stranger?
Well, on our news at 5 o'clock, we met an area woman who's been fighting leukemia.
Tonight, in part 2 of our series, The Greatest Gift, Maria Antonio is here to tell us how she now stands a better chance of surviving, and that's because of someone that she doesn't even know. And this is really a remarkable story.
It is a story, and we've been following this story for a few months, and we're going to show you what's going on right now because Larry and Lori, Stephanie Angashek is the focus of our story. She is 27 years old. She's from Overland Park, and she now has the bone marrow she desperately needs because someone generously gave of themselves. Now, here's how doctors get the marrow. We're going to try to show you how this works. They take it from the hip area. They insert a device much like this one right into the bone, the hip area, and then through this device, they extract the marrow. It is a fairly simple device. It's called harvesting, the procedure is, and it is a crucial part of the transplant process. And in Stephanie's life right now, nothing is more crucial.
It's hard to believe it's finally here.
At the University of Nebraska Medical Center, she prepares to receive healthy bone marrow.
By going through this procedure, we hope to increase her chances to approximately 35 to 40%.
Without it, those who monitor Stephanie figure her survival chances are 20%. It's an ordeal for any family going through this.
It'd be nice to get it over with.
That's an exhausted Stephanie talking, husband and mother by her side. She's on Demerol after getting massive doses of chemotherapy and radiation to destroy her own marrow.
That's what we kind of do with a bone marrow transplant, is we blow up the old bad bone marrow and we replace it with a new bone marrow.
Marrow from an anonymous donor taken from the hip area. This is a standard procedure. By now, Stephanie has no marrow and no immune system of her own. She could die without that donated marrow. It arrives in a cooler brought to Omaha by plane. It's only good for 24 to 48 hours. But first, technicians at the hospital's lab must process it. They've already gone over Stephanie's paperwork, so they know how to prepare the mix of blood and marrow, about a quart altogether.
Concentrate the cells and take off what is not necessary.
Stephanie is a small person. She only weighs about 100 pounds, so she'll only need about this much bone marrow, a cup or so. It may not look like much, but it's everything she needs right now in her battle against leukemia. Now, her best shot at life comes as easily as hooking up an IV. That's how the marrow is transplanted.
I hope people will see this and think, you know, there's probably somebody out there who's waiting and whose family is waiting and would give anything if their child or their brother or sister had a chance.
And if one day Stephanie gets the chance, she wants to meet her donor, share her feelings.
And I am so very grateful.
Thoughts that are already on paper.
I thank you from the bottom of my heart and hope you know just how thankful I am for all you have done for me and my family. May God bless you always.
Tonight, Stephanie is in good condition. She's having some difficulty, but they tell us it's nothing out of the ordinary, and she does face a long recovery. And Larry, I first met Stephanie, just a few months ago after I got a letter letting me know that I was a potential match also for a leukemia patient, and I took the simple blood test that is required to join the registry years ago. And if you want to do the same, we do have a local number to pass along. It's 816-333-0305. There is a fee, but they can help you with that.
Maria, we saw Stephanie writing the letter, but she doesn't know her donor.
No, all we know about Stephanie's donor is that she is a 38-year-old woman. Now, both sides are always kept anonymous, at least for a year. After that, they can meet if they want to. It's really for everyone's protection because, as you can see, as you just saw, it is an emotional process, and it is a process we will continue to follow Stephanie's progress, and we will let you know. It is that way when we're talking about unrelated donors. Of course, sometimes it is a relative that is a match, but when it's an unrelated donor, then it's best to keep some distance to see what happens, and then they get the chance to meet.
It's a wonderful story of giving.
Well, we will follow the story and let you know how Stephanie progresses.
Well, we're wishing her well. Thanks so much,
Maria.
A very emotional update tonight on a local leukemia patient.
You may remember back in February, Maria Antonia followed a young Overland Park woman through the struggle of her life through a bone marrow transplant.
And tonight, Maria's back with a touching chapter in Stephanie's story.
Kelly, Larry, we're talking about Stephanie Angeshik. At one point, doctors were not very optimistic. And right now, Stephanie is at a critical stage. To really understand what she's going through, we first have to see where Stephanie was 3 months ago. Then again, I'm not about...
And I was scared to death.
She was at an Omaha hospital.
It's hard to believe it's finally here.
Preparing for a bone marrow transplant. Without it, doctors give her little chance of surviving.
By going through this procedure, we hope to increase her chances to approximately 35 to 40%.
That better chance opened up for Stephanie when a matching donor, an anonymous donor, was found. A caring stranger willing to provide the much-needed marrow. After months of waiting through a simple IV hookup, Stephanie gets a better shot at life.
I'm so very grateful.
Grateful for a fighting chance, but a transplant is just the beginning of the battle. Then comes all the medication for the fight against infection and against rejection. Relatives of 3 other transplant patients in the same hospital with Stephanie saw them lose the fight. Half of all marrow recipients die of complications within the first 100 days.
There's not a day that goes by I don't think about dying.
So Stephanie prepares her husband, John.
I told him how I wanted my funeral to be, and I told him what I wanted to have done.
The most personal, most painful moments ever for Stephanie, so why is she sharing it all with us? As we just saw, transplant is not a guarantee or a quick answer, but it is often the best hope, and just like someone offered Stephanie hope, she now wants to inspire you to do the same for others. To join the bone marrow registry, we have a local number to show you, 333-0305. It is a fairly simple process that can be done through a donor drive or individually. They take some blood from your arm and check to see if you're a preliminary match for someone. There is a fee, but in many cases, the registry can help with that, and potential donors are desperately needed. Kelly and Larry, tonight at 10, we follow Stephanie. We take a look at Stephanie the way she's doing today.
Can make such a difference if people do this.
Make a big difference.
Thank you, Maria.
Thanks,
We'll see you at 10 o'clock. At 5, we showed you the local leukemia patient going through a bone marrow transplant at an Omaha hospital.
Maria Antonia is here again with the latest chapter. And Maria, this really is the most inspiring so far.
It is indeed. We've seen Stephanie Angeshik, the fighter. Now a look at Stephanie, the survivor. After suffering through the most difficult, the most dangerous days that follow a transplant, she comes home.
There were days when I didn't think I would ever see my home again.
But now all the signs of hope are there for Stephanie.
There were days when I thought going to Omaha I would never return home. I would die in the hospital. That would be the end of it.
And she was wrong.
Welcome, Maria.
Welcome
How you doing? Thank you.
I'm convinced now, I never was before, but I'm convinced now that I'm okay, and I am going to be all right. To me, it's like a new beginning. The whole thing, the timing couldn't have been better because everything's coming up.
How are you feeling? I feel great.
Now neighbors watch
Thanks. It's good to be back.
as Stephanie and husband John try to enjoy a few normal moments together for a change.
But it's the little things like that people take for granted. You know, just sitting on the back porch watching the dogs run around the backyard.
Her recovery comes with this much support, letters and cards from friends during her 3 months at the Omaha hospital. A father and mother.
Glad you're home, sugar. Hope you have a good week.
Next to Stephanie every step of the way. She still has a lot of medication to take, antibiotics and anti-rejection prescriptions. Gee, what a menu.
Yes, Carafate. That's when I had an upset tummy.
But Stephanie is now doing extremely well. Those are her own doctor's words. Words to value as much as those in one particular card Stephanie pulls from the pile. An unsigned card from her anonymous donor.
I would like you to know I am thinking of you, and I have you in my prayers.
A card from her savior.
How could you ever thank somebody for that? I owe them everything. Absolutely everything.
And thanks to that donor, everything looks good for Stephanie. Now, these days she wears one of these masks when she goes out. She'll have to worry about infection and the possibility of rejection for 1 full year after the transplant. At that point, we can all start to relax, and at that point, Stephanie can also try to contact her anonymous donor. It's how the transplant program works, and we are optimistic and already planning to be there for that chapter of Stephanie's story. And Larry, Lori, you can probably understand why Stephanie would like a lot of folks to consider becoming possible donors to help someone out in a situation like hers. Now, we have a number that we're going to pass out for the Heart of America Bone Marrow Registry. It's 333-0305. It's a simple process, by the way, that can be done through a donor drive or individually. They take some blood from your arm to see if you're a preliminary match for someone.
And tonight we have one woman's struggle to survive and what happens when a total stranger reaches out to her.
Maria Antonia has been following this emotional story for a year now. Maria?
Larry, Lori, it's all about 28-year-old Stephanie Angeshek. Not that long ago, doctors told her, you have leukemia and little time left. But here's what happens when someone offers her the chance of a lifetime.
I know that we have never met, but you have made a profound impact on my life.
As Stephanie writes down her feelings,
I can't begin to tell you how grateful I am that you exist.
the Overland Park, Kansas woman doesn't even know the name of the person she hopes one day will read this note. A total stranger donates the bone marrow Stephanie so desperately needs to fight leukemia.
I believe that you're a very kind and generous person.
Without a transplant, her chances of surviving are very slim.
You've given me an opportunity most people never have, and I am so very grateful.
Exactly 1 year after she writes that note, exactly 1 year after her transplant, Stephanie will meet her donor. Stephanie arrives in Oklahoma City with those thoughts still in mind.
I don't know how to begin to thank you for what you've done for me. You've given me a second chance to live my life, and I believe that is a miracle and the most incredible gift anyone could give.
Hi. Elise?
Yes, Stephanie.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. I just can't believe you were here. It's good to meet you.
Yeah, this is incredible.
Stephanie's donor turns out to be a woman named Elise Justice of Oklahoma. They just met, they laughed, they cried, they talked. At 10, we'll show you just how emotional it got and also what you can try to do to help the many people out there like Stephanie.
This
That's
is such a
coming
great
up.
story.
It really is.
Wait till you see what we have at 10.
We'll see you at 10. Thank you, Maria.
Tonight we have the story of a miracle.
A true miracle. It's about an Overland Park woman's struggle to live.
Maria Antonia has been following her ordeal for a year now, Maria.
Indeed, and Lori and Larry, it's about 28-year-old Stephanie Angeshek, about the smiles and the tears. First as she learns she's dying, then as she meets a stranger who offers her the chance of a lifetime.
There's not a day that goes by I don't think about dying.
Just married, and Stephanie Angeshek finds out she has leukemia and one glimmer of hope.
It's hard to believe it's finally here.
An anonymous donor, a caring stranger opens the only door left to save her by giving bone marrow for a transplant, giving Stephanie first a shot at surviving, and weeks later some words of encouragement in an unsigned card.
I would like you to know I am thinking of you, and I have you in my prayers.
How could you ever thank somebody for that? I owe them everything. Absolutely everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of this flight crew and Southwest Airlines, we'd like to welcome you to Oklahoma City.
Exactly 1 year after her transplant, Stephanie is about to say thank you to this woman.
I can't sleep. I wake up thinking about them.
Hi, Elise.
Yes, Stephanie. Hi, it's nice to meet you. It's good to meet you.
This is incredible.
So many thoughts and emotions embracing this first meeting between Stephanie and her donor. She's Elise Justice of Oklahoma. They already share an unbreakable bond. Stephanie's husband is also here to say thanks.
We've got a whole troop that are dying to meet you.
Along with other members of Steph's family.
This is my mom. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie's dad.
This is my grandmother.
Thank you. Oh, God bless you.
Stephanie knew nothing about Elise, wife, mother of two, willing to donate marrow.
Never will forget it.
Not a doubt in my mind that I would do it because so many people need it.
And for Elise to understand what Stephanie has been through, she watches a tape of the reports we've done on Stephanie's year-long struggle.
What Stephanie needs is a bone marrow transplant.
Without it, I will die. Eventually.
She watches with Stephanie and learns her role as a donor was crucial. She sees Stephanie prepare her new husband for the worst.
I told him how I wanted my funeral to be, and I told him what I wanted to have done.
But in the end, Stephanie writes a note, and it's to her donor.
I don't know how to begin to thank you for what you've done for me. You've given me a second chance to live my life, and I believe that is a miracle and the most incredible gift anyone could give.
A message should one day they meet.
It's just incredible to be here.
Incredible to be alive, let alone meeting the person who saved my life. Probably just about the most important day of my entire life.
In the 1 year since we followed Stephanie's story, nearly 1,000 people in Kansas and Missouri have learned they have leukemia. Some will find a matching donor within their own family, but for most, like Stephanie, the only hope is to find an unrelated donor, perhaps through the bone marrow registry. And you may be that matched. All it takes is a simple blood test, and here's a local number for the registry, 333-0305. There is a fee, but the agency can help with that.
That is such a touching story and such an emotional reunion. I'm wondering, why did it take a year for the women to meet each other?
Well, actually, the registry requires that both donor and recipient wait a year to meet. That's how long doctors need to determine if the recipient, if someone like Stephanie, will most likely survive. It is emotionally easier on everyone then, and as we just saw, even then it can be a very emotional get-together. By the way, Stephanie and Elise now consider each other family. They have photos of each other. Stephanie has already picked out a Valentine's Day card for Elise, and we are so happy that they let us share this story with you, an important story.
Important to show how important a donor can be.
The need is out there for folks who can make a difference, just like that woman did for Stephanie.
Well, we certainly wish them well.
Thank you,
Maria.
Thanks, Maria.